4.1, consideration of the Taupo Reserves and Roading Committee recommendation of the 10th of March 2020, licensed to occupy Pakaki Lions. Do we have approving the recommendation there, is it? So do we have a mover that the trial period for 6 months, for 6 months trial period, as per the resolution on the board there? And we wish them well. Do I have a mover, please?
I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded by Councillor Leonard. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. 4.2, endorsement of Council Officers' submission to the proposed National Policy Statement of Indigenous Biodiversity. There we are. We have Cara. Cara Scott. Good afternoon, Cara. We've been waiting eagerly for this subject all day.
It's lovely to see you all in person too.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Cara. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So this item, I guess, got put on hold after lockdown, and feel free to just let me know if you want me to explain a few things. But it's all kind of in the item. Would you like me to just talk to the main points of this item?
Thanks, Cara. That's probably the best option. Thank you.
So, the government put out their national policy statement, or draft national policy statement for Indigenous biodiversity, and that's part of a document that sits under the Resource Management Act, and it addresses how we manage our native bush areas, Indigenous habitat, geothermal wetlands, all those sorts of areas. It's been quite a long time coming. We had a briefing with our councillors with the environmental portfolio to talk about that. The timing of the close of submissions on this document was mid-March, and they were still running workshops up until the end of February. So in terms of timing for us to get a submission together, we had to put an officer's submission together to then come back for a retrospective endorsement at the end of March meeting, which of course was we had to put on hold due to COVID lockdown. So I guess the purpose of this item is to provide you with what the officers submitted on and allow you to have a review of that. Timing wise, it may be too late for us to go back with any further comments or amendments. However, we could still do that if you wanted. And then it's sort of up to the Ministry for the Environment whether they would, in terms of their timing, whether they accept it. But our two recommendations are to endorse the officer's submission or any amendments if required. So I'll just quickly talk to the main points. I guess with the National Policy Statement for Indigenous Biodiversity, the key focus of that policy statement is about our native bush areas and that they're in decline. So the key focus of that statement is about maintaining what we've got and trying to enhance or increase Indigenous biodiversity further, and in our submission we generally supported that. One of the key draft objectives that they've put forward is recognising the role of landowners of significant natural areas, and as we worked through the workshop we had a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about the Taupo District. Around half of the district has a significant natural area. 50% of those are in public ownership and 50% in private ownership, and of the private ownership around 80% is in Māori land. We do have a high proportion of significant natural areas in our district, but also just through the discussions we've had with landowners so far, with when we first identified those areas and through this process of reviewing those areas now, landowners really want some recognition of the work that they're already doing to look after those areas. And there is a key objective in the draft policy statement about recognising the role of landowners as stewards and kaitiaki, which we absolutely support. However, we felt that there was no follow-through in the policies and implementation to support that recognition. So that was probably the key part of the submission, was to say, get landowners into your policy as well as recognising them as kaitiaki, and acknowledge other methods of protection that landowners are already doing, whether it's through voluntary methods, through forest stewardship certification or farm management plans. We'd like to see those recognised as well. There was a lot of focus also on protecting those areas and making sure they stay as they are now. We think under the RMA we need to still look at sustainable management of those areas, so still allowing some form of use. And also, but we also think there needed to be more focus on how do we get more Indigenous areas into, like say, urban areas or areas where SNAs aren't already existing, but we could do rehabilitation. And we've found, just by reviewing our significant natural areas in our district, we've had quite a few gains in our urban areas, or where there's been revegetation planting undertaken. The other points that we submitted on was the draft policy statement looks to then classify significant natural areas into high and low, and just due to the nature and scale of our natural areas in our district, that would be a huge undertaking at the ratepayers' cost, that potentially some of those areas are landlocked anyway and would never be developed. So we have submitted that those sorts of more in-depth classifications need to be looked at a time of a resource consent application being undertaken, rather than the council being responsible for going out and further classifying those areas. So and that seemed to be quite a bit of feedback that they were getting from other councils as well. And then there was also discussion on the geothermal ecosystems, and given in the Taupo volcanic zone we have particular special uses of our geothermal for power generation and the like. So mainly working with the Waikato Regional Council and the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, they will be looking at having a separate specific geothermal ecosystem framework, and we've said that we would support that as well. The other points were things like highly mobile areas. It's getting a bit technical now, but they're looking at, can we regulate species like falcon, for instance, that move around a lot, and we've said that's probably not a council's role to be doing that. Perhaps the Department of Conservation or someone who's geared up for those sort of highly mobile fauna to focus their provisions on that. So that is the basis of that submission. If there's any questions on it, please feel free to ask. We circulated our submission to our councillors with the environmental portfolio, to the regional councils, and to our iwi partners as well, so that they knew that we were submitting on, and that was quite well received as well from our iwi partners. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Kara. Any questions, Kara? Councillor Leonard.
I have real concerns, and this is not your monkey as such, but the fact that this is still moving through at pace during a time of lockdown around something that is going to have a massive financial and environmental impact on our country. I have real concerns that this is something that's going to be given to us by central government, and we're going to have to administer. I think the financial cost of that to us as a council is going to be massive, if not prohibitive, and I have real concerns about that. I have real concerns as a farmer in the district what this act is going to do in regards to health and safety and people's access to land and being responsible as a landowner, and the impacts of that. And I think that probably if more people were aware of this moving through, that they would have concerns too. I have real concerns that potentially energy providers may find themselves excluded from this act, a little bit like they were through the emissions trading scheme, that energy providers are excluded or have special criteria given to them. So I support your submission, but those are my overarching concerns in regards to this.
Thank you, Councillor Leonard. Did you want to respond to any of this, Cara, or can you see a way of weaving those concerns into our submission?
Certainly financial concerns were raised by with the workshops that we went to by other councils as well, that
Right.
because part of this is also putting in roles and responsibilities, and there were certain draft requirements, and that was going to put a lot of financial strain on a number of councils, so that was also raised in other submissions as well. And certainly landowner access, I agree, is also something that we don't want to have to force people to let us onto their land, but we hope to work closely and have this as a fostering ongoing relationship with our landowners who have significant natural areas, that we can work together with the regional councils who are already talking to landowners and hopefully form better relationships in that area.
Thanks, Cara. And the exclusivity of the energy providers, what is there any reference to that in there, or say if they had they were the owners of land with significant attributes, would they be excluded in this plan?
They left things pretty open in the draft, so they had three main options for like the geothermal ecosystems,
Right.
and the one was to include it, and this one was to completely exclude it and have a separate set of provisions, and the third option was to create its own specific framework with certain principles in place, and that was the option that we supported as well, because we felt if it's going to be Indigenous biodiversity, it should really be covered under this document. I guess we'll have to see what option they go with, but that was the one that we supported.
Okay. Yep, Councillor Body.
I'll just follow on from Councillor Leonard, because I made a point down there about who pays, but if I go back in history, there was a group called the Queen Elizabeth Trust that did a lot of this work. Does that still exist?
Yes,
And that funding that funds that would be available? No.
Probably wouldn't fund councils' work, but there is still
Private land?
a Queen Elizabeth Trust in place, and
What was there for swapping land and for payment is gone, John. So no, people...
It's
no.
gone. Okay, thank you. Because you mentioned about consenting, so which sort of consent is to be able to do something? So is it to lock it up, pull it down? What's the consent process? And the next one was in regard, if you could explain, you mentioned here that it's best done by the resource consent stage rather than broad scale assessment. Why would that be?
yeah, so that was in the draft NPS. They talk about further categorising our natural areas into high and low classification, and that would then have determine what type of activity status it would have in a resource consent stage. If someone was to apply to remove some vegetation in a medium classified SNA, it might be more permissible than, say, in a high classification. But to be able to classify medium and high, because we've got something like 340,000 hectares of SNAs in our district, for us to have the job of doing that is huge, and we would have to probably helicopter into some area. It's just, I don't think they kind of thought about the scale of what some of these significant natural areas are at. And when we in the workshops and we talked about that, they said, "Oh, yeah, you're right. We can see now that some of those areas are huge." So for our district, we don't think it'll work. What we think is better, and this is the way our district plan currently works, if someone wanted to do something within a significant natural area and remove some vegetation, they can actually do it as a permitted activity if it's very poor quality vegetation, or it's a certain height, it's got certain criteria that's kind of the same type of, you do that at the resource consent stage.
Based on that consent stage rather than broadband.
That's what we're
Okay.
submitting, yeah.
Cool.
Through the
I
chair.
do
That
really,
was-
I do really support the concept of part of the management going through the farm environmental plans. I think that will be an effective way of working, but also a cost-effective way of working too. So, congratulate you for picking up on that one. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, through the
Thanks,
chair.
Karen. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, how are you?
Oh, good.
Obviously, Council Leonard raised a very valid point regarding the funding. Obviously, I do see on page 27 you do have a paragraph there regarding, that would be seeking support through regional council funding and central government funding to do so. So, yeah, but otherwise, I totally
Hopefully
support.
that happens, yeah.
Appreciate the workshops of John and Kylie
Thank you.
prior to it. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Councillor Williamson. Where to from here? You take the submission. Where
Well-
do you submit it to?
So we made the submission,
Yep. I've
Yeah.
already done it.
and
Oh.
it had to be done because closing date was mid-March.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Should
But
read
we
the
can, if you are happy to endorse it, we will then let the staff at MFE know that
So
it's
it's been
fully
endorsed, but-
Yep.
Will Kylie's concerns, will they be able to be, when you endorse it, mentioned again?
We can certainly
I think
reinforce
there's
our
probably,
key, the key.
some valid
Points
valid
raised,
points there,
yeah.
but whether you need to put it in the submission, I'm not too sure, but just when you're endorsing it, just to say, these are the comments that came through,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
probably the best way to do it, instead of amending it.
Mm.
Okay, any other questions of Cara? Councillor Body?
The second one is all. Will further amendments be allowed, and that's what you'll be indicating?
That's the tricky thing
So-
with timing now.
Well, when,
we might-
through you, Mr. Chairman, when does this cut off? I mean, I would have thought because of what we've gone through, they might have put a hold on all of this
They
stuff for at least
might,
2
yeah.
months.
Yeah. There's a possibility.
So when's the cut-off date in case someone
It was
like
originally
Councillor
March,
does?
was it?
it was mid-March.
It was
the
March,
14th.
it's
No, okay, the cut-off date for submissions, so is that in reality now we can't alter it, or can we alter it? I.e. by further amendments?
We can certainly put something forward back to the staff. It's probably up to their processes then, whether they accept it or not, but there's nothing stopping us from going back and saying this is endorsed, but there's some extra points we'd like to put forward. Yeah. If
Cool.
that-
I think so. Which part of the recommendation would you prefer us to endorse? The amended
I'd like
submission?
to move that we take the first recommendation.
The first one, okay, and just with those comments noted.
Yeah,
All right,
great. Yeah.
okay, so it's been, thank you, Cara. Appreciate your time today. Been moved by the first part. You take that out.
I'm quite happy to second that.
Yep. Has that been deleted? Yeah, cool. Oh, thank you, Shane. God, you're amazing. All right, been moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you. Right, 4.3, submission on plan change 2 to the Waikato Regional Plan. We have Tanya. Good afternoon, Tanya.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Councillors. It's really nice to see you all in person. Never thought I'd be so excited to go to a council meeting. Today's item I have is that Waikato Regional Council have notified Plan Change 2 to the Waikato Regional Plan, and that relates to the Lake Taupo Chapter. So the Lake Taupo Chapter references a specific version of Overseer, and Overseer is a software program that is used to model nitrogen losses. So the version of Overseer that is referenced in the plan is not going to be supported from December this year. So if the rule isn't changed, then it will mean that nitrogen trading won't be able to occur, and farmers operating in the catchment won't know whether they're complying with their nitrogen reference point or not. So they, the Regional Council have notified this plan change to rectify that. The way Overseer works now is a little bit different. So back in the old days, you used to be able to download a specific version onto your computer and use that one. But now Overseer is a sort of web-based software that's continually updated. So changing the rules wasn't just a matter of taking out the old version and putting in a new one, so they've had to do a few tweaks. Because the plan change is discrete and only related to the Overseer issue, they have applied to the Minister for the Environment to use the Streamlined planning process. And this is a relatively new process through the Resource Management Act, and it makes for a lot faster plan changes. So it means that you can put in a submission, and then basically the Minister for the Environment makes a decision, which through a usual resource management process you would have submissions and then further submissions and then hearings. So on the whole of it, we officers, we support the intent of the plan change, and there was just one aspect that we were wanting to raise in our submission. So it's to do with the change in Overseer, but effectively the permitted activity rule will change from 8 kilos of nitrogen per year to 12, and we just wanted to raise some concerns around how that would work. We're fine with that from farming to farming, but just for some of our uses when we're converting it from farming to say something like residential purposes, that we wanted to highlight the implications for that on us. So we have put forward that submission, and if you're okay with that submission, we will submit it before the deadline on 5 o'clock on Thursday. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Any questions of Tanya?
Very quickly.
Councillor Body.
In your submissions, you've got opposed, and we recognise and support that there are valid reasons to amend the figure in the table 310.5.1. However, we're opposed to the increase nitrogen discharge, and yet the decision short we seek that the rule 310.5.1 stays. Is that a contradiction, or am I reading it wrong?
Oh, okay, so that's, we're seeking to, that it stays in the operative plan, so that's the wording in the current plan as at the moment, so we're opposing the proposed rule change.
Allow the increase from 8 to 12.
So we want it to stay at the 8 because we're concerned about the implications of effectively changing.
I'll rest on the knowledge of Councillor Leonard. Is this going to affect the ability of persons to farm?
The limitations that are already put upon farming are already there and they're already set in concrete. This would have an implication on somebody that might subdivide some land that would then want to do something like put a septic tank in. So my understanding is that 8 kilograms per hectare doesn't give you enough to put in a septic tank, but 12 kilograms per hectare would enable you to do that. So land that's already in farming already has its limitations put to it under the contracts that are currently set. So a farmer already, this wouldn't change anything for a farmer operating under these systems.
In the future, change the ability to subdivide and do other things, such as a second house?
Such as a second house.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Any other questions of Tanya? You got it pretty lightly. Very good. Okay. Recommendation there that we adopt that submission of the plan change 2, which is due on Thursday, correct? The Waikato regional plan. I have a mover, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Rankin. Seconded by Councillor Guy. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thanks, Tanya.
Your Worship didn't ask for no's. I'm going to make a note just on the comments that I've just made. It may affect a person with a piece of land, the inability to carry out an action, and I don't think that's right. So I'd like it recorded as well, please.
What I could do is I could change the wording in submission, so rather than seeking that it stays the same in the operative plan, I could make it say that we would like to raise our concerns around the change to non-farming permitted activities and highlight that rather than opposing the rules in the operative plan, if that would...
So a non-farming activity would be able to take place.
Yeah, so it's our concern is relating to the different activities which are acting under the permitted activity rule. So we feel confident that the plan change has addressed it if it's changing from a farming activity to a non-farming activity. But we're just concerned that the implications haven't been thought through for other uses, so we could highlight that concern.
Okay.
I think at this stage, Your Worship, it's easier to leave it as it is, that I was a no, and hopefully my concerns will be taken on board, because I can't sit here now knowing in the future that what I'm looking at may not happen.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I think if that's noted, and council body votes against the recommendation, but I think you've got to understand council body's views. So when you're presenting the submission, why not mention it? So thank you very much, Tanya. Good to see you.
You too.
Right. 4.4 commencement of the district plan review. Mr. Nick Carroll. Good afternoon, Nick. Yep, we got
I
that.
could go through all that again.
So will
if you
that
want.
will that come, if that comes through via email, Nick? If that comes through via email,
Yes. So
can that be added at a later state?
what I've talked to Shani about is adding some words to clause 4 of
Yep.
the resolution. You'll
Okay.
see them up there in red around agreement in principle. We're not expecting any issues from the settlement trust. Sorry, I've got charitable trust up there, which is a slightly different organisation. So apologies, that should be the settlement trust, because that's who we hold the joint management agreement with. So essentially, they're going through their process. It will be an approval. We just haven't quite lined up those dates.
Cool. All right. Any questions of Nick? Councillor Taylor.
Separate question. So I'm assuming from that they are aware of what we are doing today, and that's not going to have any negative impact on the relationship.
Correct.
So that's great. Thank you. That was my only concern in reading through this.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Nick. Anything else to report? Straightforward. That's it. Okay. There's a suggested. Oh, sorry.
No, I just think obviously
Councillor Williamson.
79 does make sense. Obviously, we're looking at, rather than doing rolling reviews, doing comprehensive reviews, but some of them are still relevant parts of it, so it does make sense not to do 79/4. We're essentially doing it anyway.
Yeah, the approach we've taken is the safest approach. So we've essentially said we'll review the parts that we absolutely have to. So that's the parts of the plan which are more than 10 years old. There are a few other components which are a little younger, So if you remember, gosh, a couple of years ago we signed off on the plan change to do with flood hazards. We could potentially ring fence part of that and say we're not going to include that as part of the review. Whereas there are other parts such as the significant natural areas that Kara was talking about that we did back in 2013. Technically we could again ring fence that. In reality it makes sense for us to bring that as part of this review. So the approach we've taken gives you maximum flexibility. In reality we're likely to bring almost everything into the review process.
Cool. Then,
Councillor Body?
thank you, Nick. So therefore, if we take on what Councillor Williamson has said, if we go 79.4, we're going to do, basically as it states here, a full review.
In reality that's likely.
Okay. Second question is then in the document it talks about natural value section, SNAs, and if we go to our district plan, it talks about significant natural areas. Are they the same?
Sorry, significant natural areas and
Natural values.
so the natural values was the chapter which dealt with both landscapes and vegetation, I guess is the best way of describing it. So those were our natural values, and then the significant natural areas were about the vegetation.
Yeah, just mention the SNAs. No, that clarifies.
Cool. Thank you very much, Nick. Okay, there's a recommendation up there. 1, 2, 3 and 4, whakaaro settlement. So that's all good in there. Do I have a mover, please? Get this underway. Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. The review underway. Thank you very much. Right. 4.5, review of draft statements of intent. We have Jess Simpson.
Just 1 second.
Yep. Okay, just 1 second.
Sorry about that.
So this is statement of intent for Taupo Airport, Waikato LAS, Bay Plenty LAS, and the local government funding agency. Correct.
Good
Afternoon, Jess.
Afternoon. It's a fairly mechanical paper, this one, but we have asked that you resolve to extend the deadline from the 1st of May to the 1st of June due to our recent lockdown and COVID implications. Otherwise, it's just receiving these SOIs so that council staff can review them and provide feedback.
Okay, so just
Also just to note that the Destination Great Lake Taupo SOI will be dealt with in a separate paper.
okay, cool. All right, pretty straightforward then. Do I have a mover, please? Yep, moved by Councillor Kingi, seconded by Councillor Rankin. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Thank you, Jess. 4.6, Council's April performance report. Gareth.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is the first official report that we've had since obviously the COVID situation. We did have last month's council meeting but didn't have a performance report as part of that. So the report basically talks all about what we've done through the COVID situation. Just to refresh your memory, the key points there is that council continued to maintain our critical infrastructure and services. So we had a large number of staff working all the way through, providing water, wastewater, solid waste, roading and all the support stuff around that, from customer services and payroll to keep paying you and us, etc. So there was a large number of staff involved in that process. We also stood up very early on the Emergency Operating Centre, which you heard about today from the police as well. And I think at maximum there was about 50 staff working in that centre per day. It was a joint centre with the South Waikato District Council, and worked very well, but obviously was a additional focus for council staff that we didn't normally have, and had us involved in activities that aren't normally a primary focus for council, dealing with pure welfare issues which are normally taken care of by other agencies, voluntary or central government. On top of that, of course, like most organisations, we were scrambling, getting all of our staff working from home, using technology and laptops and the like, and trying to make sure that our staff could still function and undertake as much as possible their normal roles. And then obviously responding to things like the government call for the shovel-ready projects, the Crown infrastructure projects, which took a large number of people, a large amount of time to prepare those applications, which, as you know, was about $320 million worth of projects. Essentially a long-term plan, which was written over Easter weekend in that case, what would normally take about 18 months, which took 5 days of public holidays. So pretty proud of the team that put that together, and super excited that all but one of those projects has gone through to Cabinet to consider, and they're considering that right now. We should hear results within the next couple of weeks, so I'm very excited about that and waiting with anticipation. On top of that, of course, the annual plan, which had to be rewritten. It was almost ready prior to lockdown, and then we had to restart that, obviously with the commitment to 0% rates and the implication around loss of income and the like. So again, that's probably normally, Alan, about a 10-month process, which we were able to do or have just about completed in essentially a 6-week period. So yeah, and then on top of that, obviously, the team, particularly since lockdown, have been catching up with all the work that couldn't be done through that lockdown period. If you just think of some of our physical areas, you know, parks and reserves and things like that, which weren't mown for a 6-week period, and the team have done a bloody good job, excuse my French, to try and catch up since that period. They're still not quite there. There's still some way to go, but they've been working very hard to bring the district back as fast as what they can to the levels that we all expect. So look, that's about it from me. As I say, just really, really proud as the Chief Executive to see how the team all came together and pulled together through that time. It was, I think, through times of crisis like that, you see how when there's a real clear why, you know, why you're having to do things, that the team do pull together and work incredibly hard, all sort of hours of the day and night, and say public weekends, etc., to do the right thing and get the right outcome. So that worked really, really well. And yeah, hopefully we can all have a holiday soon, because I think the majority of the staff are absolutely stuffed. You know, we sit there and watch through that lockdown period. People saying that it was really nice to engage with their families and spend 6 weeks, you know, going for walks and having time. I can tell you there was very few council staff that were in that boat. We're all really, really, really excited about a holiday now. So hopefully July, with school holidays, etc., we can sort of take a bit of downtime, because yeah, we're exhausted through the ranks, to be honest. But that's my report, and we'll just go step by step.
Councillor Taylor.
Just wonder, before Alan starts, and just reflecting on what Chief Executive has just said, and I'm conscious of business as usual, rewriting the annual plan, the shovel-ready projects, and running the EOC. I'd just like to register a formal vote of thanks from us as elected representatives for Gareth, for the senior leadership team, and for all of their staff, for what has been an outstanding effort. And I venture to say most people and their families. So I for one, am really appreciative. I think we should vote a formal vote of thanks to the team for the efforts that they've put in for quite a significant extended period of time.
I'll third it.
Oh. There you go. Did you receive that? Yeah. You could pass it on.
So it doesn't come with a
yep.
pay rise or anything.
A pay reduction, in fact, Councillor, 10%. There you go.
No, thank you, Councillor Taylor. Very eloquently put and endorsed by all. Alan, finances. Now to the finances.
Right, I use a terminology BC, DC, AC. Before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. So I wasn't trying to be religious, but yeah. So these financials, we're seeing a lot of it's BC. We're starting to see the effect of DC, and we don't know when we're going to move to AC. That's part of the challenge with the annual plan. But you can start seeing the effect in here of being during the existing situation. In saying that, we've done a forecast for the year which is still showing that we're going to end up pretty much in line with what the budget is. There are some challenges. If we look at the personnel costs, what we've experienced DC is the inability for us to have our staff working on capital projects, so we can't capitalise the personnel costs into the cost of the project. The second factor is that nobody's been taking annual leave. So you think about a couple of months of holiday pay provisions, and that's why you're starting to see the gap between our budgeted personnel costs and the actual. We have staff members who have planned 4 to 5 weeks overseas and shorter. Well, that went out the window. I endorse what the CEO was saying about July being an opportunity for people to start chipping away at this massive provision, but we can't really see, based on the amount of work we've got between now and the end of June, much annual leave being taken. So that's a cost this financial year, but we'll actually get the benefit of it next financial year when they start taking that leave. But yes, there is quite a mental price that's being paid by the staff. So as far as the financials are concerned, as I say, we're still looking at being pretty close to budget at year end. Our borrowing and cash investments and leading into net borrowing is driven a bit by the CapEx program, and once again, because we had slowed down in that area for a month or two, the level of spending on our balance sheet changed as well. As far as the investments are concerned, that has also been a challenge. When you've got a 0.25% OCR rate and you're budgeting for yields of around 3%, it's nigh on impossible. We've been fortunate that during the month of April, our unrealised position on our shares improved by $800,000 just in 1 month. We've done very little share purchasing, trying to be on the conservative side. The only major one we did was we bought 100,000 Synlait milk at $4.80. A month later we put a sale order in at $7.60. Yeah. Just in one. Yeah. But you know, that's just. Yeah. But we still have some shares that are bottom drawer that we're looking at an unrealised loss position. If you take the ANZ Bank, for example, significant drop in its share price, but we'll just put those shares in the bottom drawer because I don't think long term there's going to be an issue with the ANZ Bank. Those sort of things sort of sit within the portfolio. But apart from that, the council's in a really strong financial position leading into the next financial year, and we hope to be able to say that in 12 months' time when we go into the long-term plan. So compared with a lot of other councils, you should all be happy with what you've achieved.
Thanks, Alan. Any questions of Alan?
Your Worship, just
Yes.
no
Councillor
really
Williamson?
just following up on Councillor Taylor's comments, it's probably the worst kept secret. I've always been quite a fan, unashamedly, of the skills and stewardship of Alan and his team. How this is, notwithstanding the extraordinary circumstances we're in now, but I mean, so it's just to get a vote of confidence that situation in your team. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. Buy some more equities. You didn't hear. Sorry, John. All right, democracy and planning. Ms. Tina Jakes. Afternoon, Tina.
Hi, Worship. So as you can see, that area is looking pretty good still financially wise. In terms of the projects, the first 5, on the next page, the transport strategy, we'll be having a workshop on the 2nd of June, bringing that draft to you.
Yeah. Tina, just on that, sorry to interrupt. Just can we have the information on that? Is it done? Is the draft been done now?
So there is a PowerPoint, so yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
you'll get that before
it
the meeting.
reads me well in
Yep.
advance of the workshop, if that's all right, because a few of the members would like to have a good read of that.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you.
No
Carry on.
problems. And we've already had some updates on the district plan and the annual plan, etc. On the next page, that's pretty much business as normal. There's nothing really to report in there for you.
Cool. Thanks, Tina. Any questions of Tina? No, straightforward. Thank you. Community Services. Mr. Brian Fox.
Thank you, Your Worship. The CEO and Councillor Taylor have probably stolen some of the things I was going to say, actually. Anyway, really business as usual coming back to my part of the business in terms of regulatory. Some parts of the team have been heavily involved, obviously, in the civil defence activities. I would say in that space that these are times when you see the investment that council makes in peacetime being realised in wartime. So I think it goes both ways in terms of you guys support us in terms of the resourcing for that operation. So thank you for that. And this is where you get that investment returned. It was interesting in that space that we currently run a Southern EOC, as you know, incorporating I think 5 councils. There was a unanimous view amongst the region's councils that we were in the best place within the region to run that Southern EOC, given the strength of that activity. So once again, the investment you make in peacetime gets reflected. So we're waiting to hear when that operation may retrench back to Hamilton. We do have staff who probably, as Gareth has alluded to, are tired and need a break.
Sorry, Brian, sorry to interrupt on that. There has been a couple of external queries from people about the cost of running that centre as per the operation. So is there a certain amount that was retrievable from central government, or, how does it work, or is it you haven't got those details at hand at the moment? Yep.
So overarching until when a situation like this occurs,
Yes.
there's a constitution that's part of how we operate as a group, and costs lie where they fall for those participating councils.
Yes.
Obviously with us we've got fixed costs with the rifle range, but we'd have them anyway.
Yeah.
So in terms of recoverable costs, I think Tina, the controllers, did some work on that. Might be able to help me in that space, but I think there's certainly welfare costs at some stages can be recoverable, and there's money set aside for that.
So we recover the direct costs that you spend. So, for example, the welfare, the putting people in hotels and stuff like that is all recovered from the government. The bits that we can't is essentially our staff time and other overheads around that. So the 50 staff that I talked about, of course, that's a direct cost, but it's not a new cost. It's just that you've now not got those 50 staff doing what they were doing, so we then have to backfill backwards.
Right. Okay.
So there is a cost to us, be it indirectly or not. In some ways.
Yeah.
I guess also the elements that are recoverable. Yeah. And obviously then there's the agreement that we have overarching that each council meets its own costs. If Waipa is sending teams down here, they meet the cost of all of that.
Yeah.
If they accommodate them here, they meet the cost.
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Councillor Boddy?
Correct me if I'm wrong, and thank you, Gareth, for sending every day an update of what was going on. We start off with Southern Waikato and Taupo, would that be correct?
So we started off with South Waikato and ourselves. There's a number of EOCs within the region set up. Then that got retrenched to a northern and a southern. So the new one is the 5 councils, which it is now.
It's my next question. If this happens again, which it won't, thank you. Would you stay to start with the 2, then bring the others in later, or start off with the whole lot together at once?
So we were part of a national declaration. So John, we're part of a national declaration, so that gets determined for us to some extent. Obviously we can make suggestions in that space, which we do. But we have a group controller who has significant powers when there's a declaration like this, and they direct a lot of that activity. And really, it was the retrenchment back to the northern and the southern was something that he had in his planning. It's just a matter of timing as to when that was best suited.
It's been a really good observation looking at how the different councils have worked together and the different levels, and there's things that have worked and things that haven't. So it's been a really good, if you like, process to go through, because you say tongue in cheek, it won't happen again. There will be other situations where there's national states of emergency, and so we've learned a whole lot of lessons out of this, I think, in terms of how you mash those emergency centres together.
Yeah, you could say in the last 12, 18 months for this country, we've had a number of things that are starting to tire people out, so at a national level as well as everywhere else. As I've said, my regulatory team is now back, pretty much back in action, and a lot of them I were able to work through, and we're still processing consents, etc. during the break. And just to acknowledge John's IT team, and Gareth talked about our digital work in that space, but certainly the IT team did massive things for us to make sure we could keep in the business, which was great. One of the things you're probably sensing is that we are checking in occasionally now with your appetite for risk on certain matters, just given the nature of where we're going, and it's probably going to be a bigger discussion with your risk and assurance committee. It's part of your risk management charter, that appetite for risk, and we just need to always be checking in with you as to what that looks like, given where we might be going, etc. Really nothing else from me. Pretty much business as usual now, hopefully, and trying to recover the team and add to what the community needs from us right now.
Thanks, Brian. Councillor Leonard.
Brian, we've already had a conversation as a group, but just if there was the opportunity to discuss boundaries and alignments, I struggled with us being in a different DHB to the, I guess if I'm saying if we can put this formally through our council papers, that we might perhaps be able to, while not in an emergency, afford some change to that situation of how we align, hopefully.
One avenue for that to happen, there will no doubt be a formal debrief within the group for this. You probably know that better than I do as a deputy chair. That'll be coming at some stage, and that'll be one avenue to force that. There's also all the emergency services have their own relationships as well, but it's been an ongoing issue, and anyone who works in that field will put their hand up and say forever and a day, and it's frustrating, put it that way. It's politely putting it. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Okay. Community facilities.
Afternoon all. I think
Kevin.
so through the chair, I just acknowledge that the kind words, and I'll definitely take them back to the operations and infrastructure teams, and to reiterate what several other speakers have said. The team are exhausted. They really are. The work that they've been doing is unprecedented, and it's been time consuming and intense at times as well. And this is a substantive amount of the team that do the day-to-day operations. So Alan mentioned there's a couple of examples. Had one team member going away for 6 weeks, so he hadn't had a holiday for a long time, saving up for that. He never got it. So he's looking at a week next week, which is fine. And others, there's lots of people in the same boat there. So looking forward to July, and looking forward to a few weeks around school holiday time. But just a little bit of leeway for some of the operations teams if things are not quite answered as quick as what they will be over the next couple of weeks would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Community facilities, you can see that the spend is pretty much down there, but again this was the end of April, and already I understand that we've committed close to 10 million in those capital spends and renewal spends, so there's a lot working through there. Next page. There's a lot of the work in here, and I've just been on site again today, the Great Lake pathway, and it's going well. It's on several fronts. I won't mention too much about it because you guys get pretty good updates every week by Fraser.
Yeah, so, appreciate those updates too, weekly updates.
That covers the erosion as well. So. Mayor does have a call to give into Millennium though, but that's all right. And so the only thing I really want to mention here was, I think we mentioned the facilities and sports ground strategy. It's a piece of work that senior leadership team have had a look at, and we're comfortable in the position that it's in, but it asks some pretty large questions of organisations and clubs, and we don't think it's appropriate to do that now in this time. So we're going to put a hold on that because clubs and the volunteers and that are going to have a tough time just getting back post-COVID. So it's a piece of work that the team have been working hard on, delivered up to a certain state, but it's just not the right time. So.
Councillor Park.
Yes, thank you. Notwithstanding that Councillor Taylor is the portfolio holder for sports and recreation, being the former portfolio holder, it did spend a lot of time with staff on this, getting it to a point where it's at and being kept in the loop, which was fantastic. And I believe we're going through a real time of change, and there are going to be a lot more changes, and the last thing we need to do is start rearranging where everyone is at. So I fully endorse SLT making this decision.
Cool. Thank you. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kevin, I noticed here the destination playground, was it this last month where we went out and asked for children to contribute? Would that be correct?
Maybe Gareth can update on that.
So, yeah, it's happening right now as we speak.
Because the reason I raised it, that prior to the lockdown, I was advised of a meeting of interested parties to do with the playground, but as councillors we didn't seem to be included, and I was concerned that those planners were planning something that we wouldn't even have a look at. So it's going to be coordinated, and then it'll fait accompli, whatever will come back to us in the council.
So I'll get Lisa to give more detail, but the one pre-lockdown was we were planning a session in the park, basically, where kids and their parents can come along and give ideas. Obviously, that was just as we were heading into, I think, level 3, so we pulled that. It wasn't appropriate to have a whole lot of kids together when they weren't supposed to be even socialising. So we pulled that, but as of last week, have got a new share an idea, basically, concept out at the moment. But Lisa, do you want to?
Or through you, your worship. So John, this is pretty much just theme-based consultation, so it's not on plans or designs as such. It's just getting feedback from the community about what type of play equipment they want to see put in that playground. So once that has gone through the process, and we've had a really good response, we've reached almost 10,000 people via social media, and we've had more than 280 survey responses, which is quite high. Which may again be a silver lining due to where we've been. People are really engaged and looking forward to something that's quite positive happening in the community. So once that happens, we'll collate the results, and at that point I'd be expecting that we'd be coming back to the council to let you know what those results are and what equipment and design looks like.
All right. Carry on, Kevin.
So I'll move on to water if there's no other questions.
Yep. Water.
So I think you'll see that the money's tracking along pretty well in that space. And we've pretty much completed the work at the Taupo water treatment plant. Now we're turning our heads to the work for joining Acacia Bay into Taupo. There's a lot of work going on in that space, and tenders are hopefully going out in July. So good piece of work in there to happen. There was a question from Councillor Park around the possibility of looking at a rumble strip or something along the shared path along Acacia Bay Strait, because there's no marked kind of segregation between the edge of the road and the edge of that path, and there's something that we will look at as part of the contract of putting pipes in through there. The only other things there are just rats and mice stuff with updates, and I think the updates are pretty good. And just bring to your attention really 5 Mile Bay. We'll have a quick discussion about that with our Capital Works program on Thursday, around 5 Mile Bay in particular.
The connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
Transportation. A lot of the work now. The transportation is probably all of the contractors kind of slowed down and stopped over the lockdown period. But for transportation in particular, that is a key piece of time in the season that we do a lot of the work, particularly because we're an events town and we kind of shut down the roading work around those busy times and events. So this will hit the transportation CapEx program and renewals program a little bit harder than the others, but you'll already know that we're Mirror Street is a large part of that, and we've had to hold that off until September, October, because it's just a tricky time to do any sealing in particular with the temperatures that we've all experienced over the last week or two. But the curb and channel in Turangi is back at work now as well. So, any other questions on transportation?
No. Wastewater?
So wastewater, there's a few there. Projects there, Kinlock, I think we gave a pretty good update. Michael did to the representative group the other day of the key work that is happening in that space. I've already commented on the abatement notices that we received as well. And really the work there is going around pretty well, I think, on track. And I'll just really whiz through solid waste, no change, although that everything was reasonably busy over the lockdown period at our transfer stations and landfills. And stormwater, really it's the same old thing there. The capital projects spend looks well down, but it's because we used all of that money for the downstream defender at Lake Terrace.
Solid waste all back to normal, sorry.
Yeah, so solid waste is all operating as per normal, yeah.
Okay.
So just an example, we had a bit of a glitch in the FPOS didn't work down in Turangi over the weekend. So, you know, one of the team jumped on his motorbike and took an FPOS machine from down here down to Turangi, got up and running within 2 or 3 hours. We did have to accept cash over a very small period, but, you know, the team are pretty invested in their roles.
Okay. Cool. Stormwater we did. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. No questions, Kevin, before he goes back to Manuel's? Okay, no. Right, economic development.
Okay, I'll do
John.
it from here if that's okay.
Thank you.
So, there's a few things going around that Air New Zealand aren't flying. They are flying in June. Okay, I just saw a little bit of noise on that one. So that's early June. They're commencing the flights up to Auckland, which is really exciting. The airport work phase 1 will be out to tender pretty soon. We've got a steering group meeting this week, and hopefully we'll get that out to tender soon. We had a little bit of a hurry up from Minister Twyford. I think you might have seen the letter from him suggesting that, oh, okay. Sorry about that. We'll get that. But basically it was, here's your funding. Yeah, crack on with it, basically, which was good. So I'll flick a copy of that letter out to you so you can see that. And just to talk about IT, the investment around the table here in IT enabled us to move really quickly and to be able to work from home and to do all the things we've been able to do. So that investment proves its worth, you know, in these sorts of situations. But in terms of being able to talk to our community and do things very differently, we're in a really good space, I think, to be able to do that. So I would, you know, let's carry on a little bit of that. Just a little bit of a nudge there. And I also think the recovery plan that His Worship is leading is a really important piece of work for our district. And the first bit of that work came out fairly recently, and that was, I thought, was a really good piece of work. And I'm really looking forward to where we're heading in that going forward. So I think that's really important, that recovery side of things. And also, just as a fresh face controller first time around, just thank you to Councillor Park for her support during this event. You know, just to be able to call her up and have a bit of a chat was good. It was quite nerve-wracking as a first timer, and there was 3 of us in there who were first timers. So, but that support was really, I thank you for that. That's what I've got to say.
Well done, Lena. Well done. Is it? Okay. Very good. Thank you, John. Okay, back to you, Mr. CEO. That's it. Okay, no questions or queries of anything else? Okay, there's a recommendation there that we received the information, notes the information. Do I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Williamson, seconded by Councillor Boddy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Oh, sorry. Sorry about that, I thought you were pointing the finger. Yeah, okay. Thank you. All right, council's engagements, 4.7. Thanks, Tina.
Just to add on to that is the 2nd of June for the workshop on the transport strategy, and we'll get those documents out to you later on today or definitely tomorrow.
Thank you.
Extraordinary closed council meeting, so we're looking at the 16th of June on that. We'll just need to confirm that that's enough time for DDLT to review the documents and bring it back, but that looks like it might be the date. And I've got nothing else to add to those meetings.
Just adding the 5th of June, the Rangataki River Forum.
5th of June, Rangataki
Thank you.
River Forum.
Public forum? Yep.
Cool. You right with that, Shane? Cool. Okay, nothing else? No conferences? So
Just through the chair, yeah, right. Is there any more information on Zone 2? Is it a bit early?
I haven't received anything at all.
No. I'm not, it doesn't surprise me, I'm just asking. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if it's on or off. Thank you, Tina. Movement, please, for that. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Right, members' reports, 4.8. Councillor Williamson, have you got anything?
Thank you, Wish. Not well, obviously, with lockdown, I probably should forward on really communication, like correspondence from the Botanical Society and Lakes and Waterway Action Group. Obviously, we had a meeting with the Lake Taupo Protection Project Committee with Kylie and Tong and other councillors last week, which is much appreciated, and staff.
Cool.
And also the Turangi wastewater treatment plant, obviously that litigation going forward because the consultation progressing there has obviously been impacted by COVID-19, but otherwise, no, that's all, thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Councillor Park, anything?
Apart from the emergency management work that's been going on, I'm also a part of the project Regenerate Taupo, which is in very early phases, but I'm pleased to be a part of that. I would like to say a big thanks to Anamata Youth One Stop Shop. We had Youth Week a couple of weeks ago in May, and they did a fantastic job of engaging with our youth on a social media platform. They held Netflix parties and delivered goodie bags and quiz nights and whatnot with the support of Youth Town, of course. And my teenagers were certainly delighted with their bag of movie goodies. So yeah,
Cool.
a big thanks to them for keeping the youth engaged during a difficult time.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Park. Councillor Taylor?
No, nothing to report on my portfolios, just things are just starting to get up and running again.
Thank
nothing
you.
though.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Truman?
Yep, just for Mangakino, so slowly starting to get back into it. We've got our first informal meeting with the Mangakino-Pouakani representative group on Wednesday, and just in Mangakino generally, over the COVID, we had our Pouakani Marae volunteers up and running and doing lots of deliveries to our kaumātua as well as some of our families in need, so yeah, that was most appreciated.
I saw a couple of Facebook clips of this operation. Councillor Westerman? Councillor Jones? No. Councillor Mack?
Not through my portfolio, but with Tongs, myself and the chair of the TTCB, we met with Turangi-Tongariro yesterday just to keep them updated on what's happening, and obviously they're happy. And just going forward, we're going to have a few more meetings with them as well.
Great. Awesome. Councillor Leonard?
Just a wee update. We had our first, it was an informal Zoom meeting of the Taupo Rural East Committee, which was great to get that up and going. Business as usual, generally through COVID in the rural sector. I know that I've said it time and time again, but I will say it again. The feed shortage throughout New Zealand is going to have a huge effect in the next wee while, the next 6 months. I think it's a disaster waiting to happen that hasn't been recognised. Crops have failed and droughts affected the rest of the country. There's no north and south swap over or east and west. Everybody's in a painful situation.
Thanks, Kylie, and the three new representatives on the rural committee. Exciting addition. So well done on that. So, Madam Chair, Councillor Kingi, sorry.
Yeah, good Your Worship. Nothing really to update, but I suppose other than to just reconfirm your comments that you made earlier with the earlier presentation, just applauding the police, obviously in the community safety space. I mean, it was like everybody else in the lockdown, but our police staff did a wonderful job during that. We've got our first Taupo Safe District meeting occurring this Friday, so yep, just gearing up.
Cool. Thanks, Tom. Councillor Guy?
Apart from our economic development portfolio, obviously that they've been working very hard in supporting businesses and getting the information up and running for the Regenerate Taupo, which I'm also on that portfolio. We had our first Kinloch representative group meeting since August last year, so that was a great opportunity to have an informal meeting, albeit via Zoom, and so we are looking forward to our face-to-face meeting where we can have a public forum. And so, yes, apart from that, it's just been business as usual. And I'd just really like to reiterate what Kevin had said about the Work Council and in particular, Gareth, the leadership that you've shown over this period. And also to Council, even for the presentations that they did at the Kinloch representative group. They were fantastic, and to pull stuff together like that at such short notice is to be commended. So I'd just like to thank Kevin and his team for that, and Alan's team. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Councillor Guy. Councillor Boddy.
My portfolio is in the area that I move in. One of the concerns that I've felt over the time of the lockdown was particularly the ability of persons over a certain age or in a certain age group to have access to banking. We have a large percentage of our community still use cash. Concerns were expressed to me that a lot of younger people were ordering groceries online, so therefore if a person that really needed to go online, you could have a 10-day wait. Some of our shops in town, particularly the pharmacies, some allowed the more senior people to have another line. While I really respect supermarkets for allowing, so I call them the first offenders, but those were on call for the emergencies that we were facing. If they'd allowed that for the more elderly population, it would have gone down very well. And I'm not sure how we get it through to the wider sphere, but we still have persons that do write checks out, that do use cash, and do have difficulty shopping. And a lot of those, while the many good citizens were helping those that really couldn't shop, we do have those in that age group that are very, very independent and want to be seen to be looking after themselves. So it's something I think we need to bear on mind, and I'll give credit to the system we talked about before where there were parcels delivered, etc., etc. So in some cases it worked very well, but that's the feedback I got from the phone calls of those that are more senior in years.
I think through Your Worship, it's not just senior people. I mean, totally hearing that, but we're having the same problem with our trading bank at the moment, who simply won't take cash other than at a money machine, which, as you can imagine, is a real issue for us. So it's become an issue nationally as well.
Very good. Okay. Thanks for that, Councillor Boddy and Gareth. Deputy, nothing to report? Okay. Very good. Okay. Thank you very much. Recommendation there, just to receive the report. Everyone, you okay? Oh, you're marvellous. Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Westerman, seconded by Councillor Truman. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Meeting is closed. Councillor Kingi, do I normally get you to finish off now or after the confidential? Yeah, cool. Sorry.